Wittenberg was once again the setting for a seminar jointly organized by the U.S. Embassy Berlin and the Center of U.S. Studies in Wittenberg. This cooperation was initiated in 1995 and is the fourth seminar of its kind since 2006. 25 students of Halle Wittenberg and the Humboldt University in Berlin gathered to discuss the future of public diplomacy. Among them were students for Bulgaria, Russia, the Ukraine, Hungary, Poland, and Lithuania, which gave the seminar a unique international viewpoint on the subject.
So the discussion is really on how has public diplomacy changed over the decades? What are the goals of public diplomacy today?
The first half of the 3 days of the seminar consisted of various high-level presentations on public diplomacy, including Dr. Helena Kane Finn from the U.S. Embassy Berlin.
The strongest element of power is public diplomacy. Public diplomacy can be divided into two large areas: press, sometimes called public affairs, and cultural diplomacy. There is no question that it is essential that we use the media to communicate our positions. However, it is extremely important that we do so in such a way that our ideas and our positions are accessible. All good diplomacy depends upon the ability to get into the minds of those with whom we are negotiating. In our larger dialogue with the public, our world audience, it is crucial that we consider how the message will be received. Public diplomacy is not public relations. PR is an aspect of advertising intended to sell a product. Public diplomacy goes much deeper. It is diplomacy because it necessarily involves dialogue, or the word the president uses quite often, engagement. It is public because it is an attempt, in this age of democracy, to influence not just small ruling elites, but the people at large.
The highlight of the program was a discussion moderated by Helena Kane Finn with Pulitzer Prize winners Geraldine Brooks and Tony Horowitz.
First of all, once again, a warm welcome to both Geraldine Brooks and Tony Horowitz. It's spectacular to have them here. We're talking in this conference about public diplomacy and what is the sort of connection between all of this and public diplomacy. And I think you remember this afternoon that we were discussing conflict resolution, which is very much a part of that. And that's all about finding the commonalities. It's about finding the common ground. And I was struck over and over again in your book, Geraldine, at the very subtle ways in which it was shown that there were commonalities between the three communities of the book, and particularly between Jews and Muslims.
And yet every time this kind of defective gene that we have as human beings allows us to be demagogued into the opposite belief, that the other is the enemy. And the other takes different forms at different times, but it seems like it's very easy to go from a prosperous, creative commonality to a demonization of the other and a destructive tearing down. And every time we do it, it takes maybe 100 years to claw our way back.
Well, I would just add, that substance is obviously hugely important, and in this instance, the substance of American policy may or may not change. But I think Geraldine would probably agree with me from our time reporting in the Middle East. Just people, a lot of it is they just crave to be treated with dignity. They're not going to necessarily suddenly agree with American policy, but and it's a long stretch from there to the 15th century. But again, you sense that humans, have approaching people with a smile and a certain amount of respect and openness goes a long way.
And the opposite being true. And I think Iran is a perfect example where words really matter.
In the second half of the program, the students were tasked with projects on specific aspects of public diplomacy. Professor Graber has been involved in the cooperation since its beginning.
To the national capital in Berlin, I think has greatly helped us in developing and maintaining a close relationship, and also in developing the Center for United States Studies as a special convenient venue for American cultural programs. But we've also tried not only to work with public affairs, the embassy in Berlin, but also to bring in our own university-based and research-based focus, and that's been accepted well, and our programs have been funded. So I think the benefit has been mutual.